everyone, my name is Sandy Sosibisi. I am a director at Kui Studios. I am so glad that you're here to join us. We are talking everything new markets and new customers and new customer experiences. This is in connection with our episodes, which is in connection with our playbook called Rethink, Reimagine. And we'll be taking you through just a couple of topics that we want to discuss around, like, as I said, new markets. I am not here alone. I am joined by the following guests. It's Mbali Ndandana, who is the head of digital at Unilever. It's Bandile Ntombela, who is the CIO at the Free State Department of Health. And it is Zumi, who is Consumer Communication and Marketing Excellence Director. In short, just Chief Marketing Officer for Nestle. So yeah, these are my guests. I'll allow them to introduce themselves shortly. What I will do now is just set the context for the conversation. So what we're talking about today is really the new markets, new customers, and new experiences. We are living in like uncertain times. We don't know when we're going to go back to office work, if that will ever happen ever again. We are not sure. But what this pandemic means that a lot of companies are under immense pressure to find new channels of revenue, because there's certain channels that have been closed down. One that we can speak about it's basically the commercial property sector. We're just discussing it now, how all the buildings in Sandton that are like 20 of them, I'm sure the project owners are questioning if they should just like demolish the whole thing, because the market for office space is going to surely dwindle even once post-COVID-19. So really we're living in a different time. And so, as I said, companies are looking for new revenue models, new offerings. And so really it's a time for us to rethink and reimagine how we operate in our businesses. The second thing is that this is a new era as well. You may find it's having to find new markets being going into other parts of the continent, other continents as well, to try and establish new markets there. Also new customer segments. Maybe you are only serving middle-class persons, but now you can look at serving bottom of the pyramid as well, or vice versa. So really it's an opportunity to come up with new markets and new customers. And lastly, the customer experience has become so important. We're living in a digital era whereby, people want more but not pay as much. And I'm sure the FMCG people will attest to that. So it's about how do you give your customers an experience beyond the product, beyond the service? How do you keep your clients, wanting more of what you offer, helping them throughout the process? And really it's a different era that we hope to find new ways and new mechanisms and get back to our envisioned revenue targets. I'm sure that everyone's under that pressure. So I am going to switch my video off. I don't think you guys came here to see me. And Mandile will have his video on, and then I'll allow them to introduce themselves, and then they will also just answer a couple of questions. And by all means, please, we invite you to ask questions now. I'll just pick them up later. And then also, I'm going to enable the poll as well whilst they introduce themselves, so you can participate in that at your own time. Just do it before the session ends, and then we'll tally up the votes, and then we'll see where everyone is standing. And then also, I'll just post the featured action for you to be able to download our playbook. So without further ado, I'm going to show my video and let Mandile introduce himself first. Or maybe let's start with you, actually, because she's already on. Please.
You want me to go? Hi, everyone. My name is Zumi. Thank you for that intro. I've been in marketing for a long time. I've been in the business for about 18 years, so don't try and guess my age. I'm currently working for a wonderful business called Nestle. I'm sure a lot of you will know about our business. And I'm really, really thankful for and privileged for you to invite me here today. So I'm looking forward to a great conversation.
Bali, can you please tell us who you are?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Mbali. I work at Unilever, leading digital across Africa. So looking at, on the one hand, digital media, and on the other hand, our kind of open innovation platform called the Unilever Foundry, where we engage with startups to solve certain business challenges for us in our different markets.
And the thorn amongst the roses.
Thank you so much. Good day, everyone. I hope you're all well. Well, there's two things I want to say before I introduce myself. The first is that my background does not have a bookshelf, so if you, I couldn't find a proper. I'm with the Free State Department of Health, so we are in public service. I think I always take the opportunity to talk on behalf of the public sector quite seriously, because I think there's much to be said about what we do in the public service. So I'm employed at the Department of Health as the Chief Information Officer. So traditionally that would be the IT guy, but we as of late we've been doing just more than that. I think with the with increased use of digital technologies in the workspaces, we've been working quite hard in digitizing healthcare, to increase access and decrease the cost of providing health services in the country, as well as improve our health outcomes. So that's me, and I'm quite happy to be here. Looking forward to a very rich conversation this afternoon. Thanks.
Thank you. So I will shoot right to my question. So Zumi, this is for you. So I mean, for the first time, I felt like I needed to get a coffee machine, an espresso machine. And previously I never had to. I always thought it was like an upper class luxury, but because I'm spending so much time at home, I've had to think maybe consider getting an espresso machine. So that just speaks to like a new market that you probably have been attracting, whether it be Nespresso or your other brands. I'd like us to just speak about just like, what are you seeing in the markets around new markets? Where are we struggling? Where are we getting it right? And also around where do we want to like go as maybe not Nestle, but like where are you thinking of going in terms of just like what should we be looking at? New markets, new customers. Yeah, I'm probably just rambling, but just you get the question. But just
Yeah, I get you. Look, I mean, we're all in uncharted waters, right? And I guess we're all kind of trying to figure it out. I'll share a little bit of what my experience has been. So by the way, what I didn't say in my introduction is that I look after 23 markets. There's East and Southern Africa. It's about 23, half of the continent. And some of the conversations we are starting to have or accelerating are around how do we reframe ourselves from just looking at brands and products, but to looking at what do we bring in terms of experiences. I like your example because that's exactly what we're talking about. There's an out-of-home element to our business, and there's a big in-home element. And what this crisis has done is it's almost forced us to look at how we create those experiences at home, because we don't foresee that changing in the foreseeable future. And so we're talking about how do we take our brands, which are superb brands, Kit Kat, Bar One, Recoffee, Nescafe, etc., and really try and make the experiences of consumers having those brands in new social occasions at home better. We're having conversations about what is the role of digital and digital design, and I'm sure my colleague will talk a lot more about that, in really transforming the way our consumers are finding, identifying, purchasing, and getting our products and experiencing them as well at home. And so our business is moving much faster than what we had thought around really bringing in the digital by design lens to our products and our portfolios. We think that is going to show up in how we transform and accelerate e-commerce. We think that's going to show up in a way around the way we get data analytics and get first-party data in order to help us personalize and get to know our consumers better. we think that it's also going to help us in terms of really integrating our brands and our experiences in a seamless way. So we're really excited by that. The other thought I just wanted to throw in here was this idea of us as marketers now looking at being a force for good more than we've ever been before. So it is no longer just, if it ever was, about just the bottom line, but really being about how do we solve problems that our consumers have in their daily lives. And so the convergence of brand and being bringing in shared value into the center of everything that we do, and that can speak to, I'm not talking corporate social responsibility, by the way. I'm just talking about how we manage the value chain from end to end. For us, because we're in food, we talk about farm to fork, such that it adds greater value. And then my kids walk in. Excuse me for a second. Hello. Hi, Nati. How do we bring better shared value to our experiences, whether that's through some of the work we're doing with communities, how we get communities to be a part of the brands that we make, local sourcing of our ingredients, kind of local buying a lot more than what we've done in the past, and looking at how we integrate our brands to improve the nutritional value of our consumers. So there's a lot to say in this space, but I would say that what have we discovered? We've discovered, if I had to summarize it, to say there's opportunity really for us to augment our brand experiences from only brands to brand experiences. Secondly, around how we optimize our digital to really add value to our consumers across our markets. And finally, how we bring better shared value, whether that's making our products better with local ingredients or making them serve an immunity perspective. Because obviously with this pandemic, everybody's looking at, oh my gosh, how do I keep myself and my family safe? And so how are we innovating to make sure that our brands are of better service from a nutritional value? Some of the thoughts that I'll just throw out there.
Thank you so much. I was watching Bandile, like switching between the two of you, because Bandile was like nodding every comment that you made, and I think he's got some stuff on his chest that he wants to share. But Bandile, also just when you, in your response, what Zumi just answered, just touch on the fact that how you feel the data element can really help around improving the health experience for our patients in your province. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for that. I think maybe before I talk about the sort of marketplace that we're starting to serve, I'll probably want to briefly reflect on the predominant the predominant thoughts around what public sector and public health people currently have. We know that we've got challenges of very questionable leadership and governance in the public sector as a whole. We've got challenges around poor health outcomes. We're spending billions every year, but we're not really achieving those desired health outcomes. And when I talk of health outcomes, I'm talking about the prevalence of HIV/AIDS, TB. And I think now with COVID-19, all those challenges are sort of heightened, right? So us knowing, the cost of improving healthcare, I think it's an opportunity for digital technologies as a whole to sort of start to take center stage and augment in doing the things that we are traditionally not able to do. And then directly responding to your question, Sandy, so which is really quite broad, I would say that we are not necessarily starting to serve a new marketplace per se, but we are definitely serving a marketplace that has evolved. And in our space, we speak about this concept called Health 3.0. Now, essentially, Health 3.0 is that the first the sort of the traditional health models. We focused on bringing patients or really anybody, the public, to our health facilities, and that come get medication, that come and seek whatever health service from a facility. But I think with Health 3.0, we're sort of decanting health services to the patient, so it's more patient-centric. Those of you that that use wearable technologies and our fay with platforms such as Apple Health, the Who Are We Health portal, for example, you know that things like your vital signs can be managed by yourself, and you need a clinician that that they can sort of understand those trends. So it has been quite a challenge for a public service that is as bureaucratic as the Department of Health, and it's quite interesting because if you look at the what the new customer or the new health user, the premium that they placed on customer service, for example, versus just going to a clinic or a hospital and obtaining your health service from there. Now, the second point I want to make is that it's a complete culture shock. I think the generation that that's currently visiting our health facilities, certainly from a public sector point of view, is well read, is digitally inclined, and they do not really place a lot of value in interacting directly with clinicians. For some reason, they are on WhatsApp. They prefer collaborative platforms such as what we're doing now. So bringing all those technologies and readying the traditional public health infrastructure to cater for a new 3.0, or a more digitally inclined health patient has been quite interesting. Probably at the center of that, Sandy, so is exactly what you mentioned, is our ability to to mine, to understand, and present data in a way that that adds value not only in how public sector packages his health services, but in also understanding the patient-centric approach to healthcare that is currently happening. As far as what we've done locally, as far as building a capacity of creating the ability to mine and understand and present data, is that we've collaborated quite a lot with the Central University of Technology, with other higher institutions of learning, and we've started to build this data science capability. And if I can make a direct example, for example, on how we've responded to the COVID-19 in the province, is that from cradle to grave. So we've built quite a longitudinal health record for COVID-19. So we know when you were screened, where you were screened. We know what your movements were. We know who you've been in contact with. We know who would have likely contacted COVID by being in the same vicinity as you. We know how to directly interact with those persons through a platform we created called COVID Connect. So that ability to really gather data and package a service has been of value to us. I think I will stop there, Sandy. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Bandile. I can tell you're very passionate about the topic and getting our people served in terms of health services, which is very nice to hear from a government leader. Just based on your opening statement around, leadership being questioned, etc. Bali, so I'm so glad that Unilever does both health and food, etc. And you've probably had an experience of working in both, like digitizing or bringing customer experiences in both health and also in food as well. If you can just speak about like what you see in trends in terms of omni-channels and what you're seeing around customer experiences, what technologies are out there that both health and food could actually be starting to use going forward.
Yeah, sure. I think I'll start with just a framing, right? Because we are in Africa. This is where we're kind of having this conversation. So I think from a trends perspective, we probably need to locate it a bit. And I remember there's some quote from Steve Jobs that said, the greatest, to drive the greatest impact in the 21st century, it's about connecting creativity and technology. And that's how you'll get something quite substantial and impactful. And I think it's worth extending that, right? Because in our context, yes, it's about creativity. Yes, it's about technology. But really, it's also quite strongly about humanity as well. And I think a lot of what we've seen linked to particularly this time and this crisis is just the requirement of what does it look like to create meaningful value for human beings, for humanity, and what does that look like to do it in ways that are not taking too long, but at the same time are not too reactive. I think one of the things that we are learning is how do you respond appropriately, but at the same time be slow enough to do things in the best way possible, because it's kind of a tension that you're needing to hold. I think there's the big things that we've noticed in particularly on the side where we work with tech companies. One has been a lot of pivots. And I mean, startups are built for that. Startups are built for pivoting. It's in their DNA. Design thinking is how they kind of exist. So lots of pivots within the tech ecosystem. So for example, one of the startups we work with in Kenya, which is Trigger Foods, they are partnering with Jumia now to ensure that the produce from the farmers is actually still able to make it into the market, because movement was restricted. It was difficult for them to actually access their market as farmers. And I don't know if you've seen, but the World Economic Forum was reporting that loads and loads of farmers are needing to throw away loads of food because it's not able to get to people, and people are starving because they're not able to get food. So they've partnered with Jumia, which is the biggest e-commerce platform in Africa, and that partnership didn't exist. It didn't need to exist prior to this time. And I think on the partnership, so really an ecosystem and a collaboration element is quite important. I saw as well Sweep South. I saw an announcement that Sweep South is partnering with Airbnb in South Africa since the announcement of the of level 2. So what that will mean is that for the Airbnb hosts, Sweep South is training their sweep stars, who's kind of Uber for cleaning services, if you're not aware what Sweep South is. So those trained people will come in to clean, fully disinfect the home, so that people that come to stay there are a lot more comfortable that the places have been disinfected and cleaned. So these guys, sweep stars, are getting completely new skills that they didn't have before, but it's also allowing people to be a lot more comfortable to go into Airbnbs. And as we would imagine, Airbnb is one of the companies that's been most affected by this, as well as so lots and lots of collaboration is coming out of this. I think everybody's being a little bit getting to be humble to realize that they're not the center of the universe. There's an ecosystem, and how do you play into that ecosystem, even for the likes of ourselves as big corporates? We're not the center of the universe. We're existing in an ecosystem, and how do we add meaningful value in that ecosystem as well?
Yeah. So I just want to go to the questions. Zumi, I can see that you are nodding. I'll allow you to just respond now. The first question was around, maybe Mbali, both you and Zumi can answer it, is around, you don't have to answer this question actually. Doesn't Unilever consider Nestle a competitor? How have the two ensured that they create new niches away from each other? You don't have to answer that question. But I'll allow you to respond to Mbali's points around ecosystem collaboration. I think building solutions, and also Bandile as well. I know you've got an interesting story around another collaboration with WHO that you can speak about that has benefited your own services as well. So I'll allow both of you to respond to that. Zumi, you can go first.
Let me answer that. Yes, the answer is we are competitors when it comes to from a commercial perspective, right? Because we obviously have a lot of brands that interact. But I think that and I'm sure you'll agree, there is a place for all of us to now work closer together in addressing the needs of our society. And competition is only as good as it is if it serves the consumer, right? So the more competition there is, the better the prices, the better the options, the better their needs are met. I think that while that is being said, we are working much closer through Consumer Goods Council and other forums that exist with our partners around how do we resolve some of the issues that are existing at the moment touched on the issue of food and food waste. We're looking right now at how we can partner with our fellow businesses in FMCG around how do we resolve the issue of food waste. So the beauty of having businesses like Unilever, like Tiger, like Mondelez, like Nestle, is that while on the one hand we have fantastic products that work for consumers' choice, we can also work together and find the strength in our collaboration to resolve certain issues. And I think this is going to be a big area that you've touched on around food waste, and how do we ensure that we're driving to eradicate food waste in Africa. And so that's going to be a big driver for all of us. So we can sit and talk like this, which is great, right? Because we're not both going to tell you all our secrets, and I'm sure she's not, but I think there is a bigger agenda now of how do we really accelerate the development of Africa. And it is clear that no individual institution will do it on their own, not government, not labor, not business, but it's going to come from all parties working together to resolve it.
As you answer your response around collaboration, also just Tinashe's a question around how is technology being adopted in supply chain where most public I don't know what this word is. Malfeasance. Maybe you know it, Bandile, is reported. Malfeasance.
Bad behavior.
I guess how technology being adopted in your health supply chain, and then respond to the collaboration question.
No, absolutely. I think it's quite profound what the two ladies speak about. I think, for us to address our developmental challenges, we'll definitely have to look beyond those traditional silos and competitive barriers that have long defined South Africa's corporate landscape. That relationship between private sector and public sector needs to be a bit more intimate. It needs to be a bit more progressive, a bit more developmental, because the moment of the day requires us to, right? People are losing jobs, etc., etc. So I agree. There's certainly a lot of profoundness and a lot of value that can come out of collaborations. So the sort of collaborations we are currently working on with the World Health Organization, for example, and this is not just the in-country WHO, but guys as far as Geneva and other parts of the continent, was exactly around the management of this pandemic, specifically in a sub-country or a province like the Free State. So that helps us with our daily case management. It helps us with reaching out to those COVID positive patients on a day-to-day basis, monitor their symptoms and provide healthcare insights that we probably would not have been able to do under a traditional setting. So we've done quite a lot of work with the WHO as far as that is concerned. But I also want to talk about two other things that we've been able to get out of this, is that our relationship with the private health sector has also improved. Because if you think about it, it's the Department of Health. It's not the Department of Public Health. So there's always been a great need for us to not only keep an eye, but at least have some sort of an eye as to what happens in our private facilities, and that really is it's a complexity of modern day society. You go to a mediclinic or a live group and you've got a dedicated bed. There's DSTV or Netflix. Then you visit the public health facility and you're lucky if you find a radio union. So all those expectations people have. So this pandemic has exposed exactly that. For many years, because I heard Umbali speak about value. For many years, we've been talking about universal health coverage or the national health insurance, which essentially means that we've got to standardize the quality of healthcare regardless of what sector you are in. And if you look at it from a numbers point of view, the current private sector only services about 20% of the population and less. But the health spend just from the public sector is 80% of South Africa's health spend. So it's obscene. It makes no sense at all. So I think what for like no time in history, this pandemic has shown us that the correct thing to do is to flatten that relationship and break boundaries and work with the private sector. If you look at the work VW has done, for example, with the Eastern Cape government in building field hospitals, some of the the facilities that have been built by the private sector. In fact, interestingly enough, is that the beverages sector is SAB. I don't want to give people free mileage, Sandy, so you must forgive. But SAB, for example, offering to build health facilities on behalf of government, just as a way of of allaying the fears that if the president does not ban alcohol, we can help with the pressure on the public sector. I think that's the value of collaboration, really, and yeah. So that's my briefing.
Thank you. And then Bali, you can have the parting remarks. And in your remarks, please can you answer the question from Dumi? How open is Nestle and Unilever to do business with micro retailers if they're low-cost platforms that make it easy for micro retailers to organize themselves? So you can close the show and also just respond to the questions and the discussion we've just had. Thank you.
Sure. So by micro retailers, I'm going to assume that this person is, because how we define micro retailers is spaza shops. Yeah. So I'm gonna frame it in that world. But I think generally, we could even just say how open are big corporates to working with micro and small enterprises, right? Because it could probably sit overall. I think it goes back to again what Mandile was saying, that there's massive opportunities for us to really figure out those connection points. We are doing quite a lot of work with micro and small enterprises across the continent. Zumi will be able to tell you that probably 80% of our business and their business, particularly in the rest of the continent, comes from these micro informal retail spaces, actually. So they become a critical play for us. From a technology standpoint as well, we are really prioritizing how do we find ways to make the lives of those micro retailers smaller. So through what we do with the Unilever Foundry, we would then work with startups or technology companies that are providing enabling services for those micro and small retailers to be able to serve communities in a better way possible. How do we make them smarter? How do we make them more efficient and more effective than they potentially see that the opportunity to be right now? So how do we serve them as they serve our
Thank
consumers?
you so much. We're going to end this call now. Thank you for joining us. Please look out for our next one coming up next week. We're talking about employee safety and well-being. So please do join us. Thank you so much. Thank you to our speakers. Really appreciate you giving up your time and knowledge. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and have a good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.